Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. For today's card, I'm going to be working with this folk dance background die from Simon Says Stamp. This die is part of Simon's Friendly Frolic release, which actually just came out yesterday. This pattern also comes in a background stamp, which came out in the release, and a previously released stencil. So I die cut this out of some Canson watercolor paper, and I was really careful with it because I didn't want any of those pieces to fall out of place. For this piece, I wanted to use the die cut lines as guides for my painting. I'm using my Arteza Real Brush Pens for the painting on this piece. Now, instead of putting the pens directly to the paper, I scribble them onto a palette, and then I pick up the color with a paintbrush, and that way I can add any water that I want, and I get a really pretty watercolor look. This first color that I'm using is Turtle Green. I started out by painting a very light, watered down layer of color on the areas, and then after it was dry, I came back in with the same color, but with less water this time, and I did my shadows. Now this pattern is really intricate. There's a lot of detail on it, and I'm not gonna lie, it took a very long time to paint. It probably took me a good hour to paint this, but I just turned on some Netflix and relaxed and enjoyed some painting. These two pink colors that I laid down are Bubblegum Pink and Flamingo Pink. I mixed these two colors together to give me the pink that I wanted to use for the flowers. I had an idea in my head of the colors that I wanted to use, and even though I have the really big pack of Arteza markers, the 96 set, I didn't have a color pink on there that I was looking for, but luckily when I mixed these two together, I got the color that I wanted. For the shading on these flowers, I actually did lean a little bit more towards the flamingo pink side. These next three colors that I place on my palette are Night Sky Blue, Turquoise, and Ash Black. While I'm painting here, I wanted to take a second to thank all of my subscribers. Yesterday I hit 1,000 subscribers and it was so exciting, and I'm so thankful and so happy, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway, but I'm not exactly prepared for it yet. I didn't know that I was going to hit 1,000 this soon, but I'm probably going to have the giveaway on Monday in Monday's video. So keep your eye out for that video. I'm not sure what the giveaway is going to be yet, but there will be a giveaway. Speaking of Monday, my son is turning 10 on Monday, and that makes me feel old. We're having a birthday party for him tomorrow, and we've been preparing all week for it, getting the house ready for lots of people to be over, and I haven't even started shopping. I gotta go shopping today. Anyways, back to the card. I used the turquoise color on all of these larger leaves, and then I blended the turquoise and the night sky blue colors together, and I used that color for all of the shading on the bigger leaves. Once I finished that first round of shading, I actually mixed together the night sky blue and the ash black, and I did even more shading on these leaves. This bit of shading is really subtle. I only added it to the very tips of the leaves. The next two colors that I add to my palette are Acid Green and Crocodile Green. And I'm going to start out by painting all of the little circles on the pattern with the Acid Green, and then I'm going to shade them all with the Crocodile Green. I also painted the leaves that are coming off of the flowers with these two colors. At this point, you'll see that there's some turquoise on my palette, and that's because I had missed some leaves that were supposed to be this turquoise color, and I accidentally colored them in the acid green color. So I went over them, and then it looked weird, so I ended up kind of lifting the color with a paper towel and then going back over it with the turquoise. One of the good things about watercoloring is if you make a mistake and you catch it quick enough, usually you can fix it by adding some water and lifting it up with like a paper towel or a cloth. I came back in with the night sky blue and the ash black, and I just colored in the 4 dots above the big leaves because when I first did the big leaves, I wasn't sure what color I wanted those little 4 dots to be, but at this point I decided I wanted them to be the same. I also took that ash black color and I colored in all of the centers of the flowers. Once I have those centers all colored in, the painting is done. I very carefully took the tape off of this so that I didn't disturb any of those die cuts. In order to keep those die cuts in place, I'm going to take some Tombow glue and I'm going to go all over the back of that die cut piece. Once I had a good amount of glue on there, I took a paintbrush, and this is a cheap paintbrush. You don't want to use an expensive paintbrush to do this. And I just spread that glue out to the whole area, making sure that it gets on every little bit. And this just makes sure that the small pieces also get glue on them, because it's very easy to miss some of those pieces. They're very small. Once I was sure that glue was all over that piece, I taped it onto a piece of white cardstock, and so all of these die pieces are secure now. Next, I took a piece of light gray cardstock and I used my ATG gun to adhere it onto an A2 size card base. And I actually have that light gray piece cut down so that a little bit of the white border is going to show around the edge. I used my tonic trimmer to trim down this painted panel. I trimmed this to be slightly smaller than that light gray panel. I used some foam tape to pop this panel up onto the card base. Next, I have a sentiment that I heat embossed on some gray cardstock with white embossing powder, and this sentiment is from the Beautiful Flower stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and it says Loved, and I took it and I glued it with my ATG gun onto some vellum, and then I cut that vellum down with my tonic trimmer. I popped that up with some foam tape and placed it on the card, and then I actually have a second sentiment that I heat embossed, and that's from the same Beautiful Flower stamp set, and this one says You Are, so I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape right above the Loved sentiment so that my full sentiment reads You Are Loved. Next, I decided I wanted to add some gray dots to the white space in the pattern. At first, I chose to use this Copic marker to do those dots, and I'm just adding 3 dots in a bunch of different areas, but then, look at that, I had the marker leak onto my paper after I did all that work. So here's me trying to figure out how to fix this. I have learned that the best way to fix a mistake with cards is to cover it up. So I pulled out some silver sequins and one of them fits perfectly over that ink spot. They're not glued down yet. I'm going to glue them down in a second, but I thought I'd just finish up the gray dots. Instead of using a Copic marker to finish the gray dots, I thought I'd pull out an Arteza marker. I don't want to have another ink spot that I need to cover up. I used my Tombow glue and some tweezers to glue down all of those sequins. I apologize if you can hear rain and thunder in the background. It just started storming outside. Next, I took out my glossy accents and I added a dot of it to the center of each of the flowers. The last thing that I did for this card is I took my Wink of Stella glitter brush and I added it to all of the letters on the Loved sentiment. And then this card is all done. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card made with the folk dance background die from the brand new Friendly Frolic release. All of the supplies that I used can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching and you haven't become a subscriber yet, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I'm going to be back with a new video on Monday. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a great weekend.